welcome to the Common Geeking Program. We are a book club style podcast where each episode we discuss a different topic from our own geeky and nerdy perspectives. I am your host, as always, Jeff Levitt, and this week we're going to be taking a look at the Spy Kids trilogy from the early 2000s and get down into that and what made those movies so amazing. This time around, usually we've got 3 people on the podcast, but due to some scheduling nonsense, it's just going to be me and one other person. We're going to get real deep down and intimate into this discussion. Just a little, little close encounters. Have a good time. Who am I joined by?
You could not live with the weight of your own failures. And where did that bring you? God. Back to me. Hi, I'm Edward Ryan. I'll be joining Jeff on today's episode. What a sad book club. There's just 2 of us.
Yeah. It's more of like a...
We're just like, we're 2 friends talking about a book.
Just 2 friends talking about a book.
It's not really a club at that point.
And that book is... we're really just flipping it on its head, because instead of like a club of more than 2 people talking about a singular topic, we are only 2 people talking about
3 films.
3 fucking movies. 3 books, if you will. The Spy Kids trilogy of books, of course.
I think this is the next evolution in book clubs.
Right. To like get more books, fewer club. That's really the...
That only makes sense in this, our, very modern age where we want things on demand, where we got 2-day shipping on our Amazons. We want more books, less friends.
Right, exactly. That's just, the way of the world, right? Like, why would we have a book club and have it be more about people than books, right? Like, we've got to bring up the books, bring down the people. That's just the way of the future.
I believe it was Mark Twain who once said, "Fuck people, books are way better."
Yeah. I'm really trying to aspire to get to a Wall-E quality of media entertainment, where I just have a chair that drives me around and shows me all my shit, and the people who are right next to me don't even interact with me. That's really what I strive for. It's just minimal human interaction.
I was really like, where's he going with the Wall-E thing? Like, he wants everyone to be dead? Because I forgot there's human people in Wall-E. And then as soon as you said the chair that carries you around, I just remembered the big fat people.
The chairs that carry them around.
In the chairs.
All right, we're going to start off by summarizing and discussing the topic, and then we'll end with a little rating section so we can decide if the topic was worthwhile and enjoyable for today.
Hell yeah.
All right, let's get on into it.
All right, Jeffrey, what better place to start than at the beginning?
Right.
Would you like to kick us off with a little Spy Kids Uno?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Well, so actually, it's not even called Spy Kids 1. It's just called Spy Kids.
It's just called Spy Kids.
The original standalone film that started a movement.
Exactly. And so Spy Kids 1 came out in 2001. It follows the story of Junie and Carmen Cortez, who, unbeknownst, they're unaware of the fact that their parents have actually been secret agents their whole lives, but had been in retirement and after watching the first couple Spy Kids movies, I forgot this whole element of it because they drop it real fucking quick. The reason that they had to go into retirement and witness protection is because they were in different government agencies, from different countries, which I can only assume are the U.S. and Mexico? What? They're in...
Oh, is that why they're...
The parents, in the when she's telling them the bedtime story of the 2 spies that fell in love, it was because they were it was like Romeo and Juliet type bullshit, where they were from 2 different warring nations.
Yeah.
But then whenever they talk about it later, they're always just ex-operatives of the OSS, which is just an international spy agency. So I don't know what the fuck...
Well, I think they were government spies or whatever, and they fell in love on a mission.
Yeah.
And then they joined the OSS together.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they were like, listen, we're in love. We can't do this anymore. And the only skill set we have is espionage and murder. So we'll join a different spy organization as a team.
So basically, after being in hiding for
hold up, Jeffrey, before you move on, I just want to say, so this is essentially, in the first 5 minutes of Spy Kids, we get the Hawkeye Black Widow backstory that we deserved to get in the MCU that we never got. And if we get it at this point, who cares, right? Because Hawkeye is old and retired, and Black Widow's dead. Oh, sorry, spoilers.
They didn't want to do it because it would just be treading old ground, you know?
Spy Kids.
Exactly. Like they didn't want to.
Every single person on the planet would have said, "This is just a rip-off of Spy Kids."
This is just a rip-off of Spy Kids.
Yeah, really spy adults because it's the parents.
Yeah. But spy adults in the Spy Kids. Anyway, so the after being in hiding for a while, the parents basically are discovering that all of these previous OSS agents are disappearing, and they go to investigate, and they're like, yo, kids, stay at home, because you're kids and not spies yet. So they go investigate, and they find that the... basically what's happening to all these agents is this man named Floop.
Yo, Floop is the best.
He's basically kidnapping all of the agents that go to investigate his, I guess, evil ways, because he's making shit for like some shady government, which is never like totally explained, but it's just like the vibe is there well enough that you're like, oh yeah, that's the bad guy, right? And I noticed this in Spy Kids too as well, which I'll get into later, but like sometimes the bad guys, like they don't have any like motive or even really agenda. Like they just are doing bad things. So basically what Floop is doing is he's taking these agents and he's mutating them into these weird wibbly cartoon monsters for his television show.
True.
Which is not like his evil plan. That's just like what he's doing with the people who are investigating.
It's like, I need to do something with these guys.
Yeah, exactly. But he really deep down cares more about his TV show, which Junie, the younger brother, watches, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great TV show.
So the parents leave Junie and Carmen Cortez with their uncle, Cheech Marin. Yeah, did you forget that Uncle Felix was played by Cheech?
I did not forget that. But he's also their funkle, their fake uncle.
He's not actually their uncle.
Yeah, we meet their real uncle later.
Yeah. Within like the span of like fucking 10 minutes or so, Cheech Marin reveals to Junie and Carmen that in fact that their parents had been spies this whole time. Because I guess the parents got in a little bit of trouble, and he's like, well, I guess I better pull the cat out of the bag.
I don't think it's just that. I think that don't like some bad guys start to assault the house.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And then he's like, listen, we don't got time. Your parents are spies. I don't know what voice I'm doing here. It's not
Cheech Marin.
It would be like a little bit racist for me to do.
Yeah.
So I
picked a totally different accent.
So I went with like a smoker from Brooklyn, I guess.
Well, he is a smoker, just not that kind particularly. Yeah.
We don't have any time. Your parents are spies. Here, take this submarine. Like that's
he basically puts them in a submarine and holds off the attackers. And the submarine brings them to a safe house.
So you think about it, Spy Kids is just filled with like iconic scenes, right?
It really is.
Because you have all these, like it happens a lot in movies, and they're all always copying Spy Kids when they do this, where one person stays behind and they're like, "Oh, hold him off, go!" You know, and that's what Cheech does. I just got your smoker joke. You meant marijuana.
Yeah, I did.
All right, I didn't get it before. I was just like, oh, maybe he smokes in the movie. I don't.
No, his catchphrase is, "I'm not your uncle." It's great. So they go to the safe house and they find all these gadgets, and then eventually some agents show up.
And a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money too. And some agents show up and they're like, yo, we were sent here by your parents. But they weren't really sent there by their parents. They were with the bad guys.
Yeah, this scene is a whole, like, in elementary school, they would have like an assembly about stranger danger, and they'd show videos, and in one of the videos there, like, a dude would pull up in a van and be like, "Your parents sent me to pick you up. Your mom's in the hospital and your dog's sick. Your parents sent me. I'm their best friend. You gotta come with me." Right? That would happen. Yeah. And then the school would be like, "Don't get in the van with that guy. he doesn't know your parents. That's in this movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Except instead of a creepy old guy, it's an attractive young woman.
Yeah,
but she's still like kind of an asshole to them immediately, so it's like whatever. But anyway, they quickly figure out that she is in fact not a good guy. She's a bad guy, so they use their repository of gadgets to escape, and they track down. I completely don't remember how they get to Uncle Machete, but they do.
Machete.
So they find their real uncle, who they've never met because, for reasons, I guess, him and the father have been disgraced for the past few years. And who's
disgraced? That's not the word you meant, right?
No, I guess not. They've not been in contact. You can be disgraced from a family, but it's not quite like that.
They've both been disgraced from each other.
From each other, yeah, exactly. You understood what I fucking meant.
No, I didn't. It took me a moment.
And Uncle Machete.
I'm trying to think what D word you were trying to say. Distant?
I don't know, man. Yeah. So as to how the Spy Kids trilogy connects to the Machete verse, is maybe something we can talk about later. But yes, he was played by Danny Trejo from Machete, and he's called Uncle Machete in the fucking movie.
Yeah, that's the whole connection. Is that it's just the same character, but he's settled down now. Well, and the other thing is so something we didn't talk about at the beginning. I know we're interrupting the plot synopsis here.
No, yeah.
The Spy Kids films are made by Robert Rodriguez, who did make the Machete films. He's made a lot of really good movies, but
none better than Spy.
None better than Spy. That's his his
claim to fame.
His magnum opus is the Spy Kids trilogy.
Right.
Well, the thing about like his movies, right, that you can generally expect is that they're fun.
Yeah.
And
boy, is this movie fun.
And that's the thing with Spy Kids is they're fun movies, dude. Yeah. Like really, like, they're, we're having a bit of a laugh here. They're not the best movies in the world, but like they're a good time. Like,
yo, dog.
Like
So I was all ready to come on here and talk about how fucking stupid the Spy Kids movies are in retrospect, but after watching them recently, like, they're a lot better than I remember them being. Like, no, I remember them being pretty good, but I was like, oh, I saw that when I was a kid, so I must not have noticed that the acting's all bad and that all of the plots don't make any sense. But like, I mean, there's a bit of that, but like, the acting is like not cringy or anything. Like the kids like have funny lines and they have good chemistry and shit. And it's like, it's all very self-aware.
Yes. The movie is very self-aware, and you don't really notice when you're a kid watching it, but the movie is like, isn't this fucking stupid? And you're like, yeah, it's kind of fucking stupid. And the movie's like, but it's fun though, right? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah. So basically they meet up with Uncle Machete and they steal some of his high-tech gadgets because he's like, I'm not helping your father. I don't fucking
he's like a
him.
gadget dude. He's like Q. He makes a bunch of gadgets and stuff.
So they escape with some of his gadgets and they go to Floop's ridiculous fucking castle. And I think by now maybe it's been revealed that Floop, despite the fact that he was totally complicit with turning people into weird mutants, I guess is not the evil guy, but his minion, whose name is actually Minion, is in fact the evil one all along. And like he imprisons Floop and then is like trying to, I guess, just do the same thing that Floop was doing. I don't fucking know.
No, so Floop, I don't remember because I didn't rewatch this one for the episode you did.
Floop is more interested in his TV show than he was about selling the weapons to the government. Yeah.
Yeah, and this guy, I believe it was something like, hey, this is how to get the money for the TV show. And so he was like, okay, I'll do it. And then he didn't really want to do it, but the show must go on.
Yeah, I don't think it's explained quite that explicitly. It's just kind of like all the Spy Kids movies pull kind of a trick where they don't actually make plot points they don't need to make sense. They just kind of like make the tone of it shift in a way that like kids will be watching and they'll be like, oh, I understand. He was the bad guy. Now he's the good guy. And not like actually have there be hardcore explanation.
Let me look this up. Let me see if there is an explanation.
Well, because Floop was like basically they were getting
Spy
this.
Kids and it autocorrected to Spy Kids 3.
There was this brain device that the father had made, like, when, you know, he worked for the OSS, and then he was supposed to destroy it, but he didn't for reasons. And then, like, they got this device, and it's basically like this super advanced AI to make their previously not very functioning robots function super scary, like. And they're spy kids because they're like robot kids, and they like couldn't talk. They could only talk in gibberish before, but now they can. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Anyway, so basically, Junie, you know, flips Floop over to the good side, you know, and convinces him like, hey, the show, you know, is really worthwhile. Then this evil shit isn't for you. And then they defeat Minion and the government agents and the evil spy kids and the fucking thumbs that are wandering around everywhere, and the family is reunited. And then they basically, the kids are like, hey, we're spies now, I guess, because we know one mission. And the parents are like, aight, chill, we're going to make a whole fucking organization about it. And that's pretty much the end of Spy Kids 1. Spy Kids 2 came out the next year, The Island of Lost Dreams. And just to be pretty brief about that one, basically...
Whoa. What do you mean pretty brief? About the best Spy Kids film?
Oh, we'll get into that.
Jeffrey.
You want to sell me Spy Kids 2?
Jeffrey, Spy Kids 2 is a fantasy action spy thriller masterpiece. Let's tell Jeffrey about Spy Kids 2, shall we? All right, so Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams, which let's begin our discussion with a breakdown and thorough analysis of the title of the film. No, I'm just kidding. You know, great title though. You know, it's intriguing. You're like, The Island of Lost Dreams. Whoa, what the fuck is this about? As a kid, that's what you would have said.
It is what I said. I remember it very clearly.
So, Spy Kids 2 begins. All right, the OSS, the spy people, the International Spy Society. I don't know what OSS stands for.
I don't think it does stand for anything, but I'll look it up.
It probably stands for something. Anyway, they, because of
Organization of Super Spies.
There we go. Because of how dope Carmen and Judy were. Junie. I called him Judy. I'm sorry. Because of how dope Carmen and Junie were in the first movie, the OSS now has a bunch of kid spies, right?
Yeah.
But Carmen and Junie aren't the best kid spies. The best kid spies are Gary Giggles and Gertie Giggles.
Yeah.
They're a couple of, like, rich kid...
Their father was... I didn't realize this when I was a kid, but their father was actually one of the agents that they rescued in the first movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of great continuity between the Spy Kids films, Jeffrey, as would be expected.
Of course. Here's
what occurs in the movie. There is this device called the Transmooker.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people who want it because it is very powerful. It, like, lets you control electronic devices or something.
It's basically an EMP.
It's like an EMP, okay. It turns off electronic devices. It is...
but, like, more specific. Like, it can do it in controlled areas. Yeah.
Well, an EMP is in a controlled area insofar as you put it in a place.
Yeah. That's fair.
I get what you're saying. So it lets you, like, shut off electronic devices. So here's what happens is they're at some fancy spy dinner and shit goes down. Some dudes attack it.
Some magnet head boys.
Yes. Yeah, they have big magnets on their heads. Or their heads are magnets.
They're wearing hats that are magnets, yeah.
Yeah.
And they poison all the adults when they do the toast to what's his face? Donegan Giggles is now the leader of the OSS, even though it looked like it was supposed to be their dad, the Spy Kids' dad. Mr.
Yeah, I forgot about this. So he hacked the teleprompter.
Yeah.
So that when the guy was reading it, he was like, the new leader is this guy. And I guess also, everyone was just fine with that. Like, clearly, like, there was a process where they picked the new leader, and then he changed it on the teleprompter, and he read it out, and then he was like, and then they were like, oh, fuck, well, we said he's the leader, so he's the leader now.
Also, the teleprompter, maybe not the most ingenious use of the teleprompter device. The high-tech teleprompter they have is clear, and you can see the words written backwards on it.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh, it's not going to show up on the other side. And then they did a shot from the other side, and their words are showing up backwards. And I was like, what? That's not better than...
No, that's worse than a standard.
And you could see the names show up and then get deleted, and then Donegan Giggles comes. None of them were paying attention. Anyway, all the adults drink champagne, and there was a sleeper poison in the champagne, but the kids didn't drink it because they're kids. They don't drink champagne.
What shitty spies.
Yeah, word, right?
Anyway, so the magnet dudes bounce up into here, and the kids try and stop them from getting the transmooker, but Gary Giggles fucks everything up.
And then he blames it on Junie, and making it seem like Junie got everything fucked up. Yeah.
Oh, Dad, Junie fucked it up, not me. And his dad's like, Junie, you fired.
You fired.
And
then Carmen hacks Junie back into the system, and not a single fucking person asks why he's there afterwards. Like, again, like, hackers don't change reality. Like, that's not... She didn't hack the time stream.
I think what we're learning in the intro to this film is that in the Spy Kids universe...
The OSS are really bad spies.
In the Spy Kids universe... No, they can't be. They're the best spies. They're the super spies. In the Spy Kids universe, hackers do change reality.
Pretty much.
Because Donegan hacked the teleprompter, and it made him the leader, even though it shouldn't have. Think about it like this. No, this is how I like to think about it. Remember when... I don't remember who it was. Fuck. Whoever it was... giving out the Oscars read the wrong fucking name for Best Picture.
Steve Harvey. No, yeah, not Steve Harvey. Similar situation.
Yeah, situation, right? Well, the film that he accidentally said didn't get the Best Picture Oscar. They fixed it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like so like this spy organization is less organization than the Oscars.
The Oscars, yeah, pretty much.
So, but then, Carmen hacks Junie back into the system, and he's just everyone's cool with
and
it.
They also,
which means hackers can affect reality, which I think is going to be important in the third movie.
Yeah, true. They hack themselves onto the good mission that was assigned to Gertie and Gary Giggles, and reassign them to go to the Sahara Desert, and they fall in camel poop, and it's a funny
yes, the camel poop mission. Yeah. So the good mission is to go to the Island of Lost Dreams. I don't think it's called that by the mission.
No, it's some
to go to an island
thing, some name.
And so there's
they go to the island and all of their electronics stop working.
They go to the island to look for the transmooker?
Yeah, because that's where the Magnet Men took the transmooker.
Okay, got it. So they go to the island to try and find the transmooker. Now, if this device is so powerful and necessary, why they're sending some of the kid spies instead of some of the adult spies, I don't know, but they're sending some of the spy kids.
Well, Donegan said to his kids, like, "Oh, go scope out the scene because our kid spies are like the secret ops, right? And then come back and report." And then, I don't think they were going to do that, and Junie and Carmen certainly don't do that. They go and try to solve the problem themselves.
Gotcha. As spies are wont to do.
Right.
So, they go to the island.
Bunch of fucking rogue agents in the OSS.
And they fall into a volcano. Does that happen later?
Yeah.
Or is it that happens at the beginning?
That's about right. They basically complain for a little while about, not how their tech doesn't work, and then they get chased by a monster and fall into a volcano. That's pretty much...
Okay, good. Because this is the best scene in the whole film. They fall into a volcano, and you're like, how are they going to get out of this volcano? Right?
How are our boys going to get out of this one?
Well, they don't. They die. Yeah. The movie ends. No, they don't die, but they're falling. And they're falling. And they're falling. And they're falling. They just keep falling. And it's such a good goof. Like they're doing like time jumps and Junie's like chilling, like, how long have we been falling?
And they're like, I don't know. My super advanced watch doesn't tell time because it can do everything but tell time. Also, it doesn't work because they're on, the fucking EMP island.
Yeah. So they fall for a really long time, and there's a bunch of funny goofs about it. And then there's like an emotional moment where they're like, "We're gonna die," and I love you, brother and sister. And then they don't die because they're not in a real volcano. It's a fake volcano. They find
a fake cano, as I call it.
The reason they've been falling for so long is there's some kind of like...
There's an air jet pushing them upwards, so I guess they're falling slowly, because they certainly weren't just hovering over that pit the entire time.
So it like felt like they were falling, and there was maybe like some kind of like projection or something. I don't remember exactly. But it looked and felt like they were falling, but they actually mostly weren't. But they eventually reached the bottom, and they're in like this lab. And Steve Buscemi is down there being the best character in the Spy Kids franchise.
The fucking Spy Kids movies have a stellar cast, by the way.
Yeah, they do.
Like, all the adult characters are like somebody notable. And we're like, why are you in this movie?
Yep.
Like, Cheech, why are you in this movie, Cheech Marin?
Fuck, I know we're jumping ahead, but Stallone shows up in the third movie.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Also, George Clooney is the president, and he has like 2 speaking lines in the first movie.
Yep.
Or he's not the president. No, he becomes the president in the third one. Or something. Because the president is the other guy, who's also a notable actor, but I don't remember. I don't know his name.
I don't remember.
But he's basically the leader of the organization or something. So Buscemi was the scientist who lived on this island. He's the guy who invented the transmooker. He invented it as a cloaking device for his island, so no one can find him doing his experiments. And he basically lives here in secluded because he's experimenting with these genetics and these animals. Oh my god,
it's so cool. He makes animals really small, and then he has these little tiny like zoos.
Yeah.
Of small animals. Wait, we got to talk about this before we talk about the cooler part.
Okay.
And so that was his idea, was like you could have a little miniature zoo with all these miniature versions of animals, and you take care of them and you watch them. It's kind of like an ant farm, but with gorillas and giraffes and shit.
This is a bit of a motif in the Spy Kids trilogy, in that like, not the villains, but the people who you think might be the villains for a second, and you turn out that they're okay. At the center of all, there's always just like some guy who's trying to make some dope shit for kids, and then someone exploited their genius, and then things ran amok because of that. But really, like, this was the case with Floop. This is the case with, I don't remember his name. Roman is Steve Buscemi's character, is that they're just trying to make some dope shit for kids, and then someone exploits it.
Mm-hmm. Well, so, and I think that is one of the running, like, allegories throughout the Spy Kids franchise is about children's entertainment. Because because Spy Kids are kids movies, but as we talked about before, they're high quality, right? Yeah. Because Robert Rodriguez, he said, listen, just because it's for kids doesn't mean it has to be shit. He's not the only one. A lot of people make good, high quality content for kids, but I'd go out on a limb and say the majority of kids' content is garbage because people say like, oh, it's for kids. It's for kids. We'll spend less money making it, and it'll be bad, and the kids will buy it anyway because they're stupid, and then we'll make more money, right? Yeah, and so it's this allegory running through Spy Kids is like you have people who have a vision and a dream, and they want to help kids learn about animals or just have a good time with fun TV characters.
Yeah, they're in it for the joy of creation.
Exactly. They're in it for the joy of creation and for the joy of helping the next generation, and enjoy learning or entertainment or whatever. And then it gets, their vision gets corrupted by outside forces wanting to make money, wanting to gain power. So it's like, it's an allegory for kids' entertainment in the real world, in this kids' entertainment property that is much deeper than you thought it was.
It's great. Fucking Spy Kids, man. Keeping it real.
So anyway, Steve Buscemi, he's got these miniature animals, but that's not all.
It's not good enough. He had to make
it wasn't
better.
Interesting enough to just have miniature, giraffes.
Getting to what we just talked about, I love later when they're like, when the Spy Kids revealed as Steve Buscemi, they're like, the people are coming here looking for the transmooker, the force field, and he's just like, why are they looking for that? Because they're like, it could be pretty dangerous, powerful, and he's like, yeah, but it's less interesting than my animals. And it's just like, that kind of gets to the thing too, right? It's like, this guy is so pure, that he's not even thinking about the perhaps devastating implications of his work.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that like his he's focused on like his actual work. And so he ended up to be able to work on his thing. He invented this secondary thing that he doesn't care about at all. That is the reason all these people are coming, is because that thing that he just invented to be able to work on his animals is actually, a really powerful device.
Exactly. So he started mixing animals together in the miniature format. When he's like, oh, some kids have fat hands. What if they were just a little bit bigger? And then he put a growth potion on them, and then they got a lot of bit bigger, like way too big. And so they all ran out, and now he lives, hiding in his little hut, afraid of his creations.
It's pretty sad.
And Junie's like, why don't you just go hang out with them? And he's like, they're probably going to eat me. And to be totally real with you, I side with Steve Buscemi on this issue.
They're probably going to eat you. In fact, some of them do try. So, but here's the thing. So, we have a couple of hybrids. Well, there's a few, but there's a couple of main ones. There's the spider monkey, which is
spider monkey. Most of them are clever, like spider monkey, bullfrog, horsefly, and then there's also the slizzard, which is not one of those, but it's a snake and a lizard.
So there's the spider monkey,
and that's the scary
which is,
boy.
A bunch of spider legs. It's a centaur with the bottom of it being a spider and the top being a gorilla.
Doesn't even really look like a monkey. It kind of looks like an Easter Island.
It's amazing. And if you watched Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams as a child, and you did not want to own a spider monkey, you're lying. You did.
Because he's such a bro, too.
They bro down when they meet the spider monkey.
They bro down. They bro down with the spider monkey.
Can we skip ahead to there, or is there important stuff in the middle?
Well, the one thing I did want to mention is that, like, through a couple, I would say pretty wide logical leaps, they conclude that in fact Donegan is evil, which does happen to be correct, but it doesn't make any sense the way they're just like, he's trying to get the Transmooker, therefore he's evil the whole time. I'm like, dog, isn't that why he sent you there? Like, to get that thing?
Well, like, here's the thing that's strange about it, right? Is that well, like, so Donegan, like, the OSS had the Transmooker, right?
The president did, of the United States.
Okay, yeah. So maybe that was it. Okay. But, like, Donegan wants it so he can be evil.
It never really explains why he wants it or what he plans to do with it.
He wants to do evil stuff with it.
Yeah, exactly. And then Gertie and Gary are his children, and then but
they don't know about the evil.
Right. They course correct and they show up to the island, and then it's like all, the rivalry between the two Spy Kids things. So that, they have their spats, and then they have some introspective conversation about how their dad is evil, and then eventually they find the big Transmooker.
Wait, but before that, there's an important scene that we're skipping by. So Junie befriends a spider monkey. And it lets Junie ride it, which is why you as a child wanted to have one. True. And it's holding.
And then Gary Giggles, the bad guy, befriends a slizzard, because that is
the bad animal. That's true.
Despite that being slightly more impressive, I must say that he befriended this crazy evil monster.
It is. Well, there's a reason that Gary and Gertie are the top Spy Kids.
Right.
I mean, Junie's good, but he didn't befriend a slizzard,
True. He only befriended
exactly,
a
which is
still
cool,
cool,
but it's better, but it's an easier task. Spider Monkey OP essentially is what I'm saying. Easier to get and more powerful.
Right.
Because they end up having a battle where they're riding on the backs of these giant hybrid animals.
Yeah. Also, like, one of the, like, earlier in the movie, like, there's a whole thing that, like, Carmen has a crush on Gary Giggles, right? And Junie's like, how come you never side with me? And that was, like, partially her fault that he got blamed for it in the first place, right? And then the first time that she does side with him is when Gary Giggles is literally trying to murder Junie Cortez with a giant snake monster. And then, she comes and punches him in the face, and then she's like, I sided with you this time. And I'm like, gosh, I fucking hope so. This dude was trying to eat your brother. Yeah. Like, Carmen.
Listen, so what we know is that when the chips are down, Carmen is there for her family.
Yeah.
But all other times, not so much.
Yeah. Oh, the grandparents.
Yeah, wait.
So when the parents come to try to rescue them, and then somehow Ingrid, the mom's parents, get involved, and the fucking grandpa is played by fucking Han himself,
Ricardo Montalban.
Ricardo Montalban.
God, there's so many good actors in this movie,
and he's great. So many good characters, and Antonio Banderas was the dad, right? Yeah.
Oh, they don't like the grandparents don't approve of the marriage because Antonio Banderas reminds Ricardo Montalban of himself when he was younger. And he's like, I was, like a dashing rogue spy who was, doing all this crazy, dangerous stuff. I don't want my daughter marrying someone like that.
Oh, gosh. We might have to speed through Spy Kids 3.
I know, but it's just all so good. All right, so let's speed to the end here.
They save the day, basically. And then Steve Buscemi... Because Steve Buscemi befriends his monsters because he takes Junior's advice, and then he goes and interacts with them.
He's like, I gotta get out of here. I can't stay locked up in here because people need me. And he leaves. And he's like, oh, God, they're going to eat me. But they don't eat him. They're like, you're our creator. What's up, dog? Let's be friends. And he's like, oh, my God, yeah, let's be friends. And he fucking rides in with like a bunch of monsters at the end of the movie. Like, what's up? I'm here, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
And that somehow helps save the day. I don't remember exactly the scenario.
I mean, giant monsters. Yeah. Anyway, the point is they save the day, and yeah.
So yeah, they save the day. They get the Transmooker back, and yeah. Oh, and Junie gets a kiss from the president's daughter or something, right?
Yeah, that was a character in this movie that we just glossed over, but it's fine. So Spy Kids 3D, game over. Junie is retired from being a spy, right?
Spy Kids 3 Game Over is such a good fucking movie.
It's so good.
Yeah, so
we're not going to be able to give it its proper justice. I want to go into the
beginning with a little bit of detail here, and then we can speed through.
Yeah,
because the beginning of this movie is fantastic. Because it starts out in like a noir spy style, where Junie is a grizzled, retired spy, right? And they're trying to get him back on the job, and he's like, I'm done with that life. That was a long time ago.
Right.
But he's 12. So it's amazing. And he's like taking little like side jobs, like investigating why all the water is missing from an amusement park. And it's all
right. And he's trying to basically save up to get this game, right? So Game Over is the game. It's like the shit, man. Everyone's trying to get this game because it's basically VR.
Essentially, it's if you ever watched Sword Art Online, it stole its entire plot from Spy Kids 3D Game Over.
From Spy Kids 3D,
Except Spy Kids 3D Game Over.
I remember when we looked it up, I was just like, man, this is pretty derivative of Sword Art Online. And then I was like, Sword Art Online came out
way after
this movie. I was like, hey, dog, hey, how's your anime plot? Why are you stealing it from Spy Kids?
Like a decade later. Okay, so yeah, he wants to get this Sweeto game. I don't remember exactly what happens. They get him to come back to the spy organization, like just to look at a thing. They're like, "You got to at least look at this case, Junie."
No, yeah, they basically tell him that the game master Sylvester Stallone has trapped people in this game. So everyone that went into this game is trapped there, exactly like Sword Art Online. And Junie's like, "Sorry, this isn't the life anymore." Yeah, this isn't the life anymore. And they're like, your sister's in there, trapped in there. And he's like, well, God damn it, Carmen. So Junie goes into the game, and basically he has to go through a series of... He makes some friends. There's the cool one, the smart one, the strong one. Just filling your stereotypes.
Yeah, they really
he meets a girl. She's pretty cool. No, not really. My favorite thing is... So he goes through all these trials, right? And eventually, when they get out of they discover that the toy master was in fact not evil, and someone was, again he just wanted to make a great game, and he's got this beef with the grandfather, which we'll maybe get back into. But when they all get out of the virtual world, they realize like, oh, they're all rotated one to the left, where like the cool one is not actually cool in real life. He's actually smart, and the strong one is not actually strong in real life. He's actually cool, and the smart one is not actually smart in real life. He's actually a jock, so he's actually strong. And I'm like, that makes sense for exactly one of the three of you. It's like, you can be strong in a video game. You can't make yourself cooler and smarter.
Okay, you
That's
can.
not how
so
that
some
works.
people, like, so with the help of anonymity, you know, some people, like, you know, who are maybe not great in like a social situation in the real world. But wait, let's talk real quick because we're gonna go through the plot quickly, right? They've got to complete these challenges to get these
Find a sister, save the day.
Challenges to like unlock their way to the end of the game, which is where you get to meet the toy maker, and he like grants your wish or something. But Junie wants to meet him to arrest him and stop the game, and everyone else wants to like get their wish granted or whatever. And they all have like tragic backstories or whatever, where they're like, "Oh, my dog has cancer" or something like that, and I want to save him. But here's the thing, right? So we said Sword Art Online stole its plot from Spy Kids 3D Game Over, but it's not the only thing, because if you've ever read the book or seen the movie, which is pretty different from the book, Ready Player One, it also is very derivative of Spy Kids 3D Game Over. It takes place in a virtual world, and there's a set of challenges that you have to complete to get some keys to unlock your way to the creator of said virtual world to have your wish granted.
So I'm going to boil this down to some real shit for you right now, right? Is that it's not just that these shows are basically plagiarizing the Spy Kids things, because they're not really. Like that show and that book and movie, like they have their own thing going on. But it's that like there are so many like pop culture things from our childhood that are directly linked to the Spy Kids trilogy. You know, is that like Spy Kids straight up created a lot of these tropes that now seem like super fucking cliche because we see them in a lot of other like kids media. But it's like, this was Spy Kids, baby. Spy Kids did this shit. And like some of those tropes existed beforehand, but like, you know, Spy Kids did it in such like a blazing way that was like, they don't, you know, they're like, yeah, who cares? We'll use some tropes. And like, they just own it, right?
I agree. So to get back to the plot, important thing we don't want to skip over. At some point, Junie gets like a phone a friend power up or something. This is a weird game. I don't understand how it works.
I do not in one single bit understand how he sucks his grandfather into this game, because he had to put on 3D glasses to get into the game. And that's like the whole thing, right? Is that the whole movie is basically just like here's Spy Kids in 3D, right? And like there's even like a fucking cutscene where Junie's going into the game, and Donegan, he's good now, shut up, is like telling him to put on his glasses. He's like, now put on your glasses now, and looks directly at the camera and be like, so kids can be like, oh shit, this is when the 3D starts. This is where I put on my glasses.
What I appreciate about the film, though, right, is first of all, it's interactive, okay? Because it tells you when to put on and take off your 3D glasses, right? They didn't just put the 3D filter over the whole movie. This is old 3D with the blue and red, by the way, kids.
Ideal.
They didn't just throw the filter over the whole movie and then have a bunch of parts not be in 3D. No. Most of the movie is just normal. And then there's certain parts that have the filter on top, and that's when you got to put your glasses on. And Donegan or Floop or Antonio Banderas will tell you, like, put your glasses on, and then you got to put them on.
Right. And that's pretty much, they use the 3D for when they're in the virtual world, right? So it's like, you get some immersion, because Spy Kids is fucking transcendent, okay?
So, Junie gets a phone a friend power up, but he drags his grandfather into the game, and his logic is
probably the best thing I've ever heard in my entire fucking life, right? It's like his grandfather is in a wheelchair, therefore his brain and muscle and his arm muscle mass must be like 300% or something. I can't remember. There's a very specific number that's like, he's like, oh, it's got to be like a 302% increase. And it was just like, oh, you did the math on this one, Junie. Okay, how long have you been thinking about this, by the way?
Like, he was prepared with that. Like,
right.
So, which I guess, like, you could... okay. So it's a man, a wheelchair where you push the legs around, right? You've been riding around in one of those for like however long, a long time, right? You would expect that guy would have pretty strong arms, but like not stronger than like a dude who does physical labor, right? Like like he would just have
right. I will say in Spy Kids 2, when he shows up, his chair is just 100% driving itself. There is no control. Maybe he's got some fucking mind connection with it. It just drives around. He's using both of his hands. No, he's not holding a joystick.
2, he's got like a super spy version of a wheelchair, which you'd expect. But in Spy Kids 3, we find out that he mostly pushes his wheelchair around because he's got super strength. Right. But again, I don't think it would give you super strength. I think it would give you regular guy strength. But okay.
Right.
So he brings him into the game, and because it's in a game, he's able to walk because his character's legs aren't, he
gets a power
disabled.
Up, yeah. And then we found out that he's got beef with the toy maker
and
this
that's
whole
why
time.
Donovan
that they're like
didn't
long
want
friends.
him to bring his grandpa into the game, but he did it anyway. So he runs off to find the toy maker, and Junie's like, "No, you're supposed to help me." Shit. So now Junie's on his own. He wasted his phone a friend power up. It's kind of like on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. If you call your friend and you're like, "Okay, Jeffrey, is the answer ginger ale, Pepsi, Orange Crush, or Coca-Cola?" And then your friend is like, "Wow, that's a pretty tough question. I'm really glad you called me to help out. Hey, before I answer the question, I do have some. I'm gonna put the phone down. Oh, well, that was your phone a friend. I hope he helped you." It's like, shut the fuck up, you bitch. So that's what happens. Anyway, skip. They do Judy, parties up with those other kids we talked about, and this girl named like.
There's a glitch in the system.
Spoiler, but yeah, she does turn out to be an AI.
Somehow.
Like an accidental one, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. She's
Elijah Wood shows up. He's the guy.
You're going too fast. So they do the challenges. They get to the end, but then there's this big challenge at the end that they're like, "Oh, we can't get past this." And then there's this mythical figure in the game known as the Guy. He's the best player in the game. He has 99 extra lives. Okay.
Previously, they thought Junie
might be the guy, but it turns out that he's not the guy.
Like every single fucking time, they're like, "You're the guy." Junie's like, "I straight
literally
up am not the guy."
I'm Judy Cortez. I'm a spy.
Yeah. And then when it's revealed later that Junie was not the guy, that Elijah Wood the guy, they're like, "I can't believe you betrayed us like this." And we're like, "Are you goddamn kidding me right now?"
These kids are like, "You were never the guy." Well, no, I think at some point. But it turns out Elijah Wood's the guy. And let's be clear about when this film released, okay? Because it was in the year of our Lord, 2003. July 25th, 2003 to be exact. Yeah. Now, there was a little film series that Elijah Wood was in. Called The Lord of the Rings. Now, Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001. Okay.
Is that the last one? Or the first one?
The first one. The Two Towers came out in 2002. So both of those films were out. I believe...
So basically, the Spy Kids movies are a foil to the Lord of the Rings universe.
Everyone knows this guy...
He would have been an odd pick if he weren't at the height of his fame, because he's not particularly studly or anything. He's Elijah Wood.
But it's crazy. Everyone knows this guy. He's the Hobbit. He's Frodo, and then he just fucking pops up for basically a cameo role in Spy Kids 3D. What the fuck is the subtitle of this movie, by the way? Game Over. Spy Kids 3D. Game Over.
Yeah.
Which is just amazing. Like we said, there's a lot of. This is a star-studded cast in Spy Kids. But can you imagine, right? Because kids, maybe they watched The Lord of the Rings. They're PG-13, so maybe they didn't. But kids don't recognize actors and stuff. But let's say you're the parent, a cool parent who likes Lord of the Rings. You take your kids to see Spy Kids 3D, and you're just watching the movie, whatever, eating your popcorn, and you're like, is that fucking Frodo?
I think you would have had several of those moments earlier in the movie too, like when George Clooney, Sylvester Stallone, Ricardo Montalban, Cheech
true.
Marin,
So maybe you were
and fucking
desensitized at that point.
Steve Buscemi showed up. Yeah, like it's a running theme in these movies that like people who have no business being in these fucking movies are in these fucking movies.
So anyway, so the guy shows up, and he's like, "Don't worry, guys, I'll do the super difficult thing that nobody can do," and then he dies. Immediately dies
instantaneously,
and his life counter is like going down super fast, and then it stops at 1, and he's like, "Oh guys, I didn't die," and then it goes to 0, and he's like, "Fuck," and then he dies.
Yeah, that's the one F-bomb in the movie for the PG-13 rating. It's just
he does not say the fuck
word. Yeah, so they save the day, basically. They discover that the toy maker is not such a bad guy, just like the rest of them. And then all of their friends from the previous movie show up and help.
It turns out that he's not such a bad guy.
Totally do not remember who the actual bad guy in the movie was.
Was there one?
I don't... There's like a final battle at the end of the movie where Steve Buscemi and...
Was there a second toy maker? There's like an AI version of the toy maker or something? Is that what it was?
That's
I think
possible.
It was. Let me see real quick. Okay, no. So the toy maker. Okay, so he escapes the game because he was trapped in the virtual world. He got trapped in there because he was a bad guy, right? So he escapes the game, and everyone's like, "Oh no!" And he's got this like army of giant robots, right? And it's too much, right? The Spy Kids, they can't handle the army of giant robots by themselves. And their family shows up, you know, their dad, their mom, their grandma, their grandpa. But they can't handle the army of giant robots. It's too much. They can't do it. So what do? That's right. They call in everybody from the previous Spy Kids films. Steve Buscemi shows up with his spider monkey and his lizard.
Floop and Minion show up.
Floop shows up, dude. Floop shows up with his fucking weird, creepy monsters from the first movie. And Machete shows up, and Cheech shows up, and Duck Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome, shows up. He does!
And then Captain America says, Avengers!
So essentially, so that scene, the portal scene in Avengers Endgame is essentially a ripoff of...
Is directly derivative of Spy Kids
3D Game Over. You're gonna, if you watch the film, you'll notice a lot of things have just stolen plots and scenes directly from it. But anyway, it's amazing, especially as a kid who's watched all 3 of these movies. All these characters show up because they didn't forget that the other movies existed, you know? All these characters show up. Yeah. They're like, we're here to help.
My favorite thing about the Spy Kids
and the trilogy. Finish the sentence. And they all fight an army of giant robots together. And it's amazing. And you put your 3D glasses on, obviously, for this scene.
So, but the toy maker's not a bad guy, right?
They defeat all the robots except for the toy maker's robot. And the grandpa goes up in there, right? And he talks, this is how they... So there is a big battle, which is great, but the way they defeat the final villain is with words. He talks to the toy maker, and he says, listen, Sylvester Stallone. He doesn't call him Sylvester Stallone. He says, he does, I forgive you. I've been searching for you all this time, not to get revenge, but to tell you that I forgive you. Let's move on. This is 30 years in the past, you know? Let's just move on. And the toy maker's like, wow, I've always wanted to hear you say that, and I never thought I would. I'm really sorry for all the bad stuff that I did. And that's how they defeat the toy maker.
Hell yeah.
I mean, come on. This is a kid's movie. And they're saying, listen, have empathy with people. Talk it out.
Bad guys have hearts too, yeah. That's one of my favorite things.
Summary's done. It only took an hour.
Only in an hour, yeah. Well, I mean, we had some discussion interspersed in there. Yeah, that's kind of how this goes now.
So go ahead.
One of my favorite things about the Spy Kids universe is that, like, everything operates in the Spy Kids universe exactly how you think it would when you're a kid. You know, like they're fucking plugging in shit with giant like 1 foot diameter plugs that they put into walls, and like, you know, the kids are actually people with personalities and individual, you know, like, and they're making like kid jokes the whole time. It's just like very, I don't know. And like I said earlier, right, like a lot of the plot is basically like they don't need to get into the specifics of like what did these people do, what are they trying to do, what's their end game, because they've set up the tone and the vibe of how these characters are, and that's enough. That's enough for the Spy Kids movies.
Too, that's good is that like Junie and Carmen at times are dumb, and it's like for kids it makes for like funny goofs, right? But for like, you know, older kids and for the parents of the kids watching the movie, it's like, oh, these are like characters.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, they're not just like, you know, perfect cutouts for my child to paste their face onto in their imagination. Like, these are characters.
Yeah.
They have flaws.
And also, like, all of the, like, and perhaps this was done for a marketing standpoint, but it also, like, just works for kids enjoying the movie. It's like all of the gadgets are, like, basically toy versions of what those gadgets would be. So like when you go to the store or go get your McDonald's Happy Meal and you get like a spy toy, like that might as well have been the fucking prop in the movie. Like they're very similar, you know? Like I remember one of the gadgets in the second movie is like basically one of those fucking like light things where you spin it around and it, you know, but then it does stuff in the movie, right? So it's very kid friendly, and it's very self aware of basically everything that it's bringing to the table, and it plays to its strengths. It doesn't give a shit about its weaknesses, right? Like when plots don't make sense or whatever, it's just like, who cares? We're brushing by that. Who cares, right? Like you get what's going on. You understand what I'm putting on the table right now, you know? And it does it in a way that's like every fault the movie has, if you can even call them a fault, you're looking at it and you're like, they decided to not care about that. Instead of they overlooked that or the budget didn't allow for that. You know what I mean? All right. I think we've had a good bit of fun here. I think we've boiled down kind of what's at the core of the Spy Kids movies. You want to move on to talk about our, perhaps spoilers here, but immense enjoyment of these movies in the rating section?
Well, before we get out of this kind of discussion portion, I guess to put a cap on it, the Spy Kids trilogy, and yes, I said trilogy because the fourth one does not exist. Not made by the same people. It was just a quick cash grab. Is bullshit.
Yeah. What fourth one? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
The Spy Kids trilogy is high quality kids entertainment. If you watched it as a kid, rewatch it. I think you will be surprised at how much you enjoy the films. And if you have kids,
and how much it holds up.
Don't forget to show them Spy Kids, because they're gonna have a great time, and you're not gonna be bored while they watch the movie. Also, everything stole their plots from Spy Kids. Spy Kids are the alpha and omega of film.
We're basically here to tell you that they're actually, like, I know we've been talking in media that Disney's doing a bunch of remakes, but it goes deeper than that. There has not been an original piece of media since Spy Kids came out, because literally everything is taking its plot from Spy Kids. Even the stuff that is remakes of the stuff that was made before Spy Kids, entirely influenced by Spy Kids. And that's a fact. That's a fact here from the Comic Geeking program.
All right. So let's, I guess
nothing's real and Spy Kids is amazing. Let's move on.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ed, for an intensely sneaky and spyful discussion.
And we don't need a third or fourth person. Fuck that. We are the Spy Kids.
We made this episode long enough on our own. Could you imagine how long this episode would have been if we had another voice?
Probably about this long.
There's
I think it's just a me thing. That episodes go a little long when I'm here.
Well, anyway, now we're going to be moving on to the ratings, and we're going to rate the topic from a scale from, 1 to 10.
You switched to 10 at some point?
I switched to 10. Because I don't like that 0.5 bullshit. And then every time I say that, someone's gonna be like, "I'm gonna give it a 7.5," and I'm like, "Fuck you! You never would have done that.
You wouldn't
before.
have given something a 0.25 or a 0.75."
Yeah.
Exactly. All
right, go ahead. 1 to 5. You know what? Or 1 to 10. Sorry, 1 to 10. Let's just go gadgets, because the Spy Kids movie is filled with gadgets.
You don't want to rate on a scale of
Transmookers? There's only 2
Alright, 1 to
Transmookers.
10 gadgets.
Nah.
Gizmos.
1 to 10 gadgets. It's gizmos and gadgets. 1 to 10. Well, how do you feel about Spy Kids Trilogy as a whole?
The Spy Kids Trilogy, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. 8 gadgets out of 10. Yeah.
8 out of 10?
And I don't feel I need to explain it. I feel like I've been doing that for about an hour. It's really good.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna land somewhere in that same range too. You know, like, it's still a little bit corny, but it kind of uses that to its advantage. So really, it's a pretty good piece of media. So I would say we can land on a solid 8 out of 10 gadgets. And you know what? That's all you need. We've been talking about Spy Kids. You don't need a bunch of reiteration of what we've already been saying. Spy Kids is great.
The Spy Kids movie does pretty much everything except tell time.
Exactly. Except for then there's the advanced Spy Kids movie, and you know I'm gonna break into the veil a little bit here and talk about what we're referencing, right? So like he's got this big watch that goes like halfway down his arm, and he's like and Machete's like, it does everything but tell time. And then later in the movie, Giggles
isn't it in like the whole next movie, or is it, it's in the same movie? Okay.
No. It's in the same movie. Yeah, Gary and Gertie Giggles, they're like, oh, we've got the even more advanced version. It does everything, including telling time, and it goes, like, further down their arm. And I'm like, yo, dog, how much do you need to, like, just tech the watch? Why is it that much longer? Just put a watch on it. Fuck, even just wear 2 watches. Like, anyway, that's enough of that. That's just about gonna wrap it up today for us, folks.
Thank you
for listening to the Common Geeking program. Again, I've been Jeff Levitt. You can find me. I've got an Instagram called Things I Wish Existed, and there's a dot between each word. I've got a YouTube channel which I just started to do some toy reviews. That's Alchemist Prime Reviews, and to plug a specific thing, I did a really fun video on the Comic Geeking program YouTube channel where we did a quiz of like real and fake Transformers names, and that's fun. We're gonna keep doing more of those. So
check that out.
That's out there if you want to check it out. Exactly. And again, I've been joined by.
I have been and continue to be Edward Ryan.
Oh, that's who you are. I've been trying to figure it out this entire episode.
You can find me standing just outside of the vision radius of the peephole in your door. And also on Twitter at Fake Eddy Ryan.
It's a great all right, so that's gonna do it for us. That's where you can find us. Our next episode is going to air on, if I've done my calculations correctly, it'll air on the 3rd Friday in December, so that will be December 20th, getting pretty close to festivity there. So that's going to be, our next episode is going to air on Friday, December 20th, so tune in for that. And as always, thank you for sharing and listening and everything else, and we'll talk to you next month.
And before the outro, make sure to put on your 3D glasses.
Wait, you haven't had them on the whole time? Well, fuck, the episode's goddamn ruined now. Just quit. Don't even come back. Bye everybody.
The Common Geeking program is hosted by Jeff Levitt, joined by Eddy Ryan. This episode is sponsored by pain. My entire body hurts. Why did I go to the gym again? Just kidding. It's to get swole. The podcast is created and produced by Colin Ketchen and Jeff Levitt, and features original music by Colin Ketchen. This episode was edited by me, Taeemul Chowdhury. We'd love for you to stay engaged with us on social media at Geeking Program, or by using #CGP. If you want to know more about us and all of our other projects, head to commongeekingprogram.com. Stay in touch, stay tuned, and as always, thank you for listening to this podcast. Ciao!
How off track did we get in terms of time? Like real bad or just a little bad?